Madra John Madden. Juanito is my new apodo. That's Spanish for nickname. They love apodos in Mexico. And I have a new one that I acquired in Cozumel about 6 months ago. Juanito. A lovely restaurant server named Marvea liked me a lot, and when she heard my name was John, she immediately named me Juanito, which technically means Little John, but colloquially gets translated as Johnny, which is my favorite childhood nickname, magical properties. And when she came up with the name Juanito, so often in Mexico, all the staff in a particular restaurant are family. And all the staff in that wonderful restaurant in Cozumel were family. They all picked it up. They all started calling me Juanito. Now it is everywhere. It's my YouTube channel. It's my email. It's how I introduce myself to everybody. And here in the little humble pueblo of Akumal, everybody knows me as Juanito. I'll try to find the link. I live on a tiny, very extremely rutted, rough road at the very edge of a very poor pueblo. And I have a video where I went and introduced myself to a couple of neighbors. And when Marisol, the lovely neighbor, and I speak some Spanish, 2 years, I've been here 2 years. When Marisol, the neighbor, introduced herself, I said, "Me llamo Juanito." And you could see her visibly blink when I gave her a Spanish name. And she was like, great, good, Juanito. And now when she sees me coming down the street, it's Juanito. And lots of people on this road after 5 months know me as Juanito. But I will forever may not be long now because I'm kind of sick, but I will forever be the gringo down the road. So that's Juanito. But before I had the nickname Juanito, I had the nickname Majo, which I did not really even intend to be Spanish. I didn't even realize that it was Spanish. I was really starting over. I no longer had a computer. I needed an email handle on Yahoo. Yahoo took M, and my legal name is John Madden. And I traveled for business and corporations for a long time in the U.S., and that name, John Madden, haunted me. Not that he's a bad guy, he's just everywhere in the U.S. Praise God, not in Mexico. But even in Mexico, some of the young people know him from the famous John Madden football games. But I was so sick of being John Madden that before I left Chicago for Asheville, I said to a real good black friend, Bruce Williams, looking for a nickname, and Yahoo took the M.A. from Madden and the J.O. from John and wants to call me Majo. I was pronouncing it Majo. Here in Mexico, it would be Majo or Mayo. And Bruce, my very cool black friend, says, "You got your name, man. Walk with it." So that became my name. For 16 years in Asheville, North Carolina, the jewel of the Southeast, on the spine of the Blue Ridge Mountain. Hippie, progressive, artsy, mecca, super progressive, a place full of artists and musicians, busker capital of the U.S., I say after a lot of touring in the U.S., more than New Orleans. And in Asheville, everybody knew me as Majo. I did performance poetry at the church where I performed poetry. Howard, the minister, introduced me one day and said, I don't know if he even has a last name. Majo, do you have a last name? You're like Madonna. And I even sometimes use the boom microphone for my poetry. But the trip to Asheville, the move from Chicago to Asheville was a move of pure desperation. Because at that point, it was about 15 years of being misdiagnosed as bipolar. I, clinical psychologist myself, felt so humiliated by the diagnosis, which was given to me erroneously when I was in a perfect storm of life crises, capped by the return of my sex abuse memories that blew me apart. I looked bad, got taken to the doctors, took me to the psychiatrist, just came up with, pulled out of their ass the name of clinical depression and put me on soul-killing drugs for 30 years. Talk about 30 years in the wilderness, 15 hospitalizations, each time because I was a hairbreadth away from suicide. It was clinically induced depression. I'd never been depressed before. I would go high. I'm prone to ecstatic states, and try to explain that to a psychiatrist and try to explain even trauma to them. No. So I was at a very, very low point in Chicago, had decided that I was living in Hyde Park, University of Chicago, great neighborhood on the south side, the most integrated neighborhood in Chicago. Hyde Park, Kenwood, Barack Obama's neighborhood. I used to ride my bike past his house. And I had once before made a very serious suicide attempt. So serious that when, a lot of times at the ER, when you present at the ER depressed and say, I need to be in the hospital, they'll turn you away. They don't think it's a serious risk. But when they would read the report of exactly how methodically I went about trying to kill myself, they said, this guy's capable. I don't know how he survived that one, but let's not give him a chance again. So 15 hospitalizations. And I was dead set. But at the last minute, I remembered what my son had said to me after my one big suicide attempt. Dad, if you ever reach that point again, don't hurt yourself. Do something really radical. Reinvent yourself. Move someplace you've never been before. Do work you've never done where you know nobody. Start over. And that popped in my head. I said, okay, I don't think it's going to work. And it damn near didn't. But I hopped on a Greyhound bus with a big rolling duffel bag that my men's group bought for me. That was my moving van, and $200 in my pocket, and went to start over. And I went to Asheville, North Carolina. Lots of people know Asheville now because of the big storms from Hurricane Helene that decimated that whole area. Well, those stories often refer to the big storm of '04, when 3 different hurricane-related storms blew up into Asheville and flooded a lot of those same areas. And I moved from Chicago to Asheville after storm number 2. And my friend Gretchen said, don't go to Asheville now. They're buried. It's terrible. And I said, I know. They're my neighbors. I have to go stand shoulder to shoulder with them. And I did. And hurricane number 3 prevented me from committing suicide. I was out in the woods trying to find a place to jump, and the rains came and drove me home. So the other thing, 2 things that Asheville I want to mention were breweries. That part of the world is known for microbreweries. Little tiny ones that look like somebody's backyard barbecue but have nice labels and great beers. To the jewel of all of them was Sierra Nevada. Huge craft brewing company opened a new facility south of Asheville that was like the Disney World of microbreweries. Shuttle buses, gorgeous store tours. And my favorite, I loved dark beers, winter release imperial stouts. The Sierra Nevada narwhal, Narwhal. Most people have never even heard that word, but on the bottle, I have a picture of it here. They show the incredible narwhal whale with the long tooth. It's like a spear sticking right out the front of it. And I took great joy after I had, when the COVID hit Asheville in '04. In 2020, I took to the mountains and after a couple months out there, acquired an old camper van. Big, red, hulking Ford Econoline camper van, 6,000 pounds. I compared notes with somebody who had a GMC camper van. This was 88. Theirs was a 97 GMC, and it was half the weight. I slammed my hand on the hood, and I said, "That's tinny." Mine had huge sheet metal. It was like a armored car. What a car! And it had the famous Ford 5-liter engine, ran like the wind. I could drive that sucker 100 miles an hour, and I did. But I bought that car up in the mountains, deep in Appalachia, in a county that had never rolled back prohibition, dry county. And what was true was they couldn't make alcohol legal because it would knock out the moonshiners, which were very active back in there. So I gave my new van, because it had a turning radius like an ocean liner, I gave it the name of Narwhal, my favorite Sierra Nevada winter release beer in a dry county, is my way of kind of thumbing my nose at the whole thing. I love that. I love that car. Out of the blue tonight, I'm messing around on the National Public Radio site, and on their shortwave science podcast, they had a story about narwhal whales. I don't think it's actually a terribly interesting story, but it shows the dramatic narwhal, and it just brought back so many great memories of a year and a half in that camper van, and all the adventures that I and my little chubby Chihuahua Pancho had in that van. Oh, baby, narwhal the whale. Love you, narwhal. Electric system. Somebody said about that car that the electric system already was not working when they rolled out of the showroom. The electric system was, they had all these new things they were trying to implement because of new laws about saving gas efficiency and stuff, and they just didn't have it down. And it was a nightmare to keep on the road. But when it was running, narwhal. Yeah. Okay.